Another drip in the steady erosion of American democracy is underway, with James Comey, who led the FBI during the turbulent early years of Donald Trump's presidency and became one of his most outspoken critics, was indicted today on charges of giving false testimony to Congress and obstruction of justice.
My family and I have known for years that there are costs to standing up to Donald Trump, but we couldn't imagine ourselves living any other way. We will not live on our knees, and you shouldn't either. Somebody that I love dearly recently said that fear is the tool of a tyrant, and she's right. But I'm not afraid, and I hope you're not either. I hope instead you are engaged, you are paying attention, and you will vote like your beloved country depends upon it, which it does. My heart is broken for the Department of Justice, but I have great confidence in the federal judicial system, and I'm innocent. So let's have a trial and keep the faith.
The indictment adds a new chapter to the long-running feud between the two men and reflects Donald Trump's broader campaign to punish figures he considers hostile towards his regime. Attorney General Pam Bondi announced the indictment in a post on social media, stressing that accountability applies to everyone regardless of position. She stated, ironically, that the Justice Department was determined to pursue individuals who misuse power to mislead the public and pledged to follow the evidence wherever it leads. The move came only hours after Trump publicly urged Bondi to act against Comey and others he views as adversaries. His direct call for prosecution broke with the long-established custom that presidents avoid interference in federal charging decisions and underscored the increasingly political direction of law enforcement under his leadership. The allegations stem from testimony Comey gave before the Senate Judiciary Committee on September 30th, 2020. Prosecutors claim he misrepresented elements of his handling of the inquiry into Russian involvement in the 2016 election. The indictment was secured just days before the 5-year statute of limitations would have expired. The case was presented to a grand jury by Lindsay Halligan, a lawyer who previously represented Trump personally and who was recently appointed as U.S. Attorney for the Eastern District of Virginia. Halligan, who has never worked as a prosecutor, assumed the post after her predecessor, Eric Siebert, was pushed out, reportedly because he hesitated to pursue charges against Comey and New York Attorney General Letitia James under the instruction of Donald Trump. The unusual circumstances of Halligan's appointment have fueled criticism that political loyalty, rather than legal qualifications, drove the decision. Meanwhile, Trump unveiled a presidential memorandum in the Oval Office today that laid out a sweeping federal strategy to dismantle what he called a radical left-wing domestic terror network. Framed as a comprehensive security measure, the memorandum directs the FBI, the Justice Department, and the Treasury to coordinate efforts to identify and disrupt groups involved in political violence. Trump argued that wealthy individuals secretly finance activists responsible for chaos in American cities, claiming that some donors are people he knows personally. Though pressed for specifics, he mentioned the known conspiracy theory in right-wing circles that George Soros and Reid Hoffman are possible financiers, while hinting at others unnamed. The Open Society Foundations, supported by Soros, quickly rejected the accusation, calling it a politically motivated attempt to demonize independent organizations. Critics warn that Trump's memorandum blurred the line between legitimate protest movements and terrorism, granting the government sweeping powers to pursue opposition voices under the guise of counterterrorism. Trump tied the initiative to several recent episodes of violence. Foremost was the September 10th killing of far-right commentator Charlie Kirk, which Trump and allies attributed to a leftist conspiracy, despite early evidence suggesting the attacker acted alone. Just a day before the memorandum's release, a shooting at a U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement detention facility in Dallas left one person dead and 2 wounded. Investigators found a bullet inscribed with anti-ICE, fueling further conspiracies that the attack reflected organized hostility toward law enforcement. The executive order grouped these incidents with others stretching back several years: an attempted assassination of Supreme Court Justice Brett Kavanaugh in 2022, the killing of a healthcare executive in Manhattan last December, 2 failed attempts on Trump's life, and bouts of street violence in Los Angeles and Portland. Trump falsely presented these events as part of a single organized campaign designed to intimidate officials, silence political opponents, and destabilize the government. Stephen Miller, Trump's deputy chief of staff and far-right operative, hailed the memorandum as groundbreaking. He described the initiative as the first time federal agencies have been marshaled in unison to uproot what he called left-wing terrorism. He said the FBI's Joint Terrorism Task Force would serve as the central hub, investigating not only individuals who commit violent acts, but also support networks funding streams and allied organizations. Miller portrayed the violence as carefully coordinated and argued that dismantling its financial and organizational underpinnings were essential. Trump himself cast the order as a way to defend the country against shadowy funders of radical groups. He described the alleged financiers as people who might appear respectable in private, but secretly bankroll chaos. Though his remarks lacked specifics, the language reflected his broader conspiracy that American unrest is not spontaneous but orchestrated by powerful elites. At the same time, Trump continued to assign blame squarely to Democrats, falsely accusing them of stoking hostility toward law enforcement through their criticism of immigration enforcement. On his Truth Social platform, he connected the Dallas shooting to Democrats' rhetoric about abolishing ICE, claiming their attacks on the agency had fostered an environment that encouraged violence. On his Truth Social platform, he connected the Dallas shooting to Democratic rhetoric about abolishing ICE, falsely claiming their attacks on the agency had fostered an environment that encouraged violence, rather than focusing on his own policy of militarizing immigration enforcement. Federal investigators, however, said they found no evidence that the Dallas shooter was part of a group or that the attack was linked to a larger conspiracy. That gap between Trump's framing and law enforcement findings underscored the political stakes of his messaging. Earlier this month, Trump issued an executive order labeling Antifa a domestic terrorist organization. The network, however, is decentralized and loosely affiliated, raising questions about how such a designation could be enforced. Legal scholars and civil liberties groups warned that targeting movements under the banner of terrorism risks criminalizing dissent and protest. Did you know that your personal data is actively being sold online by data brokers right now? Anyone with a credit card, even scammers, can buy your home address, phone number, and even the names of your family members. It's not just creepy, it's dangerous. If you've ever spoken out politically or have a public-facing job, your data can make you a target for harassment or worse. Identity theft, phishing scams, even stalking, it all starts with your information being too easy to find. That's why I use Delete Me. They're the best in the business at getting your personal info removed from data broker websites and keeping it off. Delete Me is the sponsor of today's video, and I'm proud to partner with them. On my dashboard right now, I can see they've removed my info from 47 data broker sites, including over 300 pieces of personal data, stuff I didn't even know was out there. Your personal safety and privacy are worth protecting. Head to joindeleteme.com/5minutenews and use promo code 5minutenews for 20% off. You can even protect your entire family with a family plan, because when they buy your data, they can see your relatives too. That's joindeleteme.com/5minutenews, promo code 5minutenews. The new memorandum goes further, declaring that political violence is not an accumulation of isolated acts, but rather a deliberate campaign of intimidation and disruption designed to shape political outcomes. It instructs federal agencies to probe every aspect of these activities, from individuals carrying out attacks to those providing financial backing and organizational support. For Trump, the 1-2 punch of Comey's indictment and the memorandum signaled an intensification of his approach to wielding authoritarian power against critics. Opponents argue these actions are part of a retribution strategy that bends federal law enforcement towards Trump's personal and political goals. Both developments highlight how Trump's presidency has increasingly merged law enforcement with politics. Whether described as accountability or retaliation, the events today underscored a presidency determined to use legal tools and national security frameworks to pursue adversaries. As Comey prepares to fight his charges in court and civil liberties advocates brace for the implications of the new executive order, the debate over the independence of the Justice Department and the boundaries of executive power will grow only stronger. I'm Anthony Davis. You can find me on the 5 Minute News YouTube channel and podcast, on Wednesdays co-hosting Uncovered, and on Sunday on The Weekend Show with Midas Touch.